The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. That very day, the first day of the week, 2 of Jesus' disciples were going to a village 7 miles from Jerusalem called Emmaus, and they were conversing about all the things that had occurred. And it happened that while they were conversing and debating, Jesus himself drew near and walked with them, but their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing as you walk along?" They stopped, looking downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, said to him in reply, "Are you the only visitor in Jerusalem who does not know of the things that have taken place in these days?" And Jesus replied to them, "What sort of things?" They said to him, "The things that happened to Jesus the Nazarene, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, how our chief priests and rulers both handed him over to a sentence of death and crucified him. But we were hoping that he would be the one to redeem Israel. And besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since that has taken place. Some women from our group, however, have astounded us. They were at the tomb early in the morning and did not find his body. They came back and reported that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who announced that he was alive. Then some of those with us went to the tomb and found things just as the women had described. But him they did not see." And Jesus said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets spoke. Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them what referred to him in all the scriptures. As they approached the village to which they were going, he gave the impression that he was going on farther. But they urged him, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening, and the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them, and it happened that while he was with them at table, he took bread, said the blessing, broke it, and gave it to them. With that, their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, but he vanished from their sight. Then they said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he spoke to us on the way and opened the scriptures to us?" So they set out at once and returned to Jerusalem, where they found gathered together the 11 and those with them who were saying, "The Lord has truly been raised, and he has appeared to Simon." Then the 2 recounted what had taken place on the way and how he was made known to them in the breaking of bread. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
This is awesome right here. This moment, this night, this kind of celebration. This is why I wanted to be a priest. This is what this is all about. So I have to regale you with a little data that I've got. It's not hard data, but I've been doing a little informal surveying recently, trying to understand a really important facet of campus culture this year. Why do people love Frozen? I mean, seriously, actually, love is probably an understatement. People are obsessed. They're singing in study lounges. They're dancing in the dining hall. I'm not even mad. It's amazing. What's the story? Why Frozen? Now, I didn't get the sense that most people think that reindeers are better than people. I mean, come on, that's just weird. Only a few of you think that your boyfriend or girlfriend's a bit of a fixer-upper. I'll leave you all to tell them that. And after just under 19 months of winter, none of you, and I mean none of you, really want to build a snowman. So unless you're just crazy about Adele Dazeem singing Let It Go, it's got to be something else. It's got to be something different. Something more. Frozen is a different kind of story, isn't it? At least it's different than we expect. Sure, the princess gets engaged to the handsome prince about 4 minutes after they start singing and dancing together. Classic Disney. But then the prince turns out to be the villain. And the fixer-upper mountain man actually takes care of the princess. And the evil queen isn't really evil. And for the first time in forever, the comic sidekick snowman is actually funny. But none of that is what makes Frozen different. Clever plot twists and complex characters feature in any old fairy tale. It's the ending that we don't expect. The act of true love that isn't true love's kiss. The princess putting someone else's needs before her own. Anna sacrificing herself to save Elsa. Love thawing Anna's frozen heart. We don't expect that ending. And yet, we dance and cheer and sing and weep with joy as if Frozen couldn't end any other way. As if, somehow, it weren't all a fairy tale. As if part of the story were true. As if self-sacrificing love could really save someone from death. Is Frozen a fantasy? Of course. Just like Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But that true love is sacrificial, that we're made for self-gift, that one could give up his life for his friends and rise from the dead, that, my friends, is no fantasy. It's Christianity. It's the Paschal mystery. It's the resurrection. What we celebrate here tonight, the story we were baptized to tell. The story of a God who loves us so fully that he gave himself up to death. Tonight, we celebrate the fact that Christ's story doesn't end in death. God's given us the best plot twist we've got. Step aside, Hans. Tonight's a different duet. Love is an open tomb. Love is an open tomb. Love is risen from the dead. That's the story we're baptized to tell. That's the story Christ has written into our hearts. That's the story of our salvation. And yet, it's never an easy story to tell. In the shadow of the cross, resurrection can seem unbelievable. In the face of death, new life can seem impossible. We need look no further than our Lord's first disciples. When confronted with news of an open tomb and a missing body, St. Luke writes that the apostles, the men who had walked with Christ himself, did not believe. The story they heard seemed like nonsense. In Greek, leros, spoken from delirium. They'd seen their friend captured, beaten, mocked, murdered. This resurrection story just couldn't be possible. It just couldn't. That sort of sadness and loneliness and fear can keep us from seeing resurrection, even when it literally stops us in our path. Look at our gospel tonight. Jesus walking with his 2 disciples on their way to Emmaus. What are you discussing as you walk along? Jesus asks them. We can imagine their stunned look. Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place in these days? The things that happened to Jesus the Nazarene, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people. Have you not heard how our chief priests and rulers handed him over to a sentence of death? How they crucified our friend? We were hoping that he would be the one to redeem Israel. We were hoping that his story, that our story, would end a different way. He wasn't supposed to suffer. He wasn't supposed to die. He wasn't supposed to leave us here alone. That's not how the Messiah story is supposed to end. No, we can hear Jesus say, that's just not the ending you expected. Listen to all that the prophets spoke. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and enter into his glory? This is how the story ends, with an act of true love, love risen from the dead. No one has greater love than this, to lay down his life for his friends. Because that's how love works. That's how God works. Resurrection is no fantasy. Love is an open tomb. Our world needs to know that. Our world needs to hear that story desperately. That story we're baptized to tell. The story Christ has written on our hearts, the story of our salvation. Friends, we experience resurrection every day. When reconciliation and forgiveness overcome anger and division. When healing and growth transform heartbreak and defeat. When men and women and children fight for justice, when the conscience of an entire church stirs, we share the story of resurrection. God makes us men and women with hope to bring. And we must be men and women with hope to bring. For there is no failure the Lord's love cannot reverse, no humiliation he cannot exchange for blessing, no anger he cannot dissolve, no routine he cannot transfigure. All is swallowed up in victory. This night, Christ is risen. Alleluia.